son of a bitch.
My name is Dan. I'm 30 years old, and I'm from Japan. I'm an artist. I'm a performance artist. I'm hired for people to fulfill their fantasies, their deep, dark fantasies.
Hey, you. You're finally awake.
Space Enthusiast presents Two Mimes Robust Sec.
Our story begins with the humble and beautiful Mime. Having been recuperated from his last performance, he wishes to spread more tomfoolery throughout the day. In his travels, he spots a fellow mime in need. Watch closely as they begin to communicate with each other through their special language. They say hello to one another, nodding when waving. Purple and Prowls asks if he wants to go out, but Tug simply shakes his head and says, "I'd rather stay in the bed." Even though he heard the man's command, he could not watch his brethren rot in prison, and thus, after looking left and right, he begins to smack open the glass. Not before quickly taking off, only to come back later with a ferocity and an act of peaceful protest, sprays water all around the security lobby. Unamused, he is ignored by security. The Gray, accompanied to the mayhem, can't help but watch in glee. Seeing that the mime was now released from jail, the hopes and bright futures of the two seemed to shine brilliantly into the future. In an act of power, the mime struts in and slips a sec. Satisfied with the release of the mime, he decides to take his brilliant trolling to cargo. Having been received a beating, the mime backs into a corner. However, mimes and clowns are quite adverse to stimulus, and seeing some progress on the slipping, he decides to root in deep. The QM asks the mime to get the fuck out. The mime refuses, and the cargo tech proceeds to wish and threaten the mime with beatings. They demand him to leave, but it only bolsters the mime. Reactions are what the mime is after, anyhow. He tells them to wait. But seeing as how they're taking the source of his funny juice, he approaches it and pretends to leave. Here we see a brilliant use of the mime's power of funny. Having received a little laughter, the mime leaves a last gift and departs. In order for this next part of the story, you must be informed of some special techniques. Foremost is the ability using a network configurator to connect a remote signaler to a door, causing you to link the two up to where, when pressed, a door bolt activates. Notice how the multi-tool is able to do the same thing and shows the same connection. And with the press of the button using Z, boom, we have locked doors. Those babies ain't going anywhere. Keep in mind that you cannot use this technique on doors you have no access to. Pressed refutes the connection. Now knowing this technique, the mime locks and traps disposals all for himself, bolstering the defenses all around, turning it into the perfect trap. He goes out and finds his first few targets, and by baiting them by trapping them inside with an invisible wall, he hopes to gain their attention. And now a final technique. This is the disposal unit menu. Notice the flush and power buttons. By flushing and putting an object in, you're able to swing it away. If you activate the flush while the power is off and click the power button, it instantly flushes. By dragging something in and flushing with the correct timing, you can get a near instant connect. And the last technique. By flushing and dragging yourself in, you can quickly escape most situations. Let's see how the mimes use these techniques. Spotting the hoss, the mime begins to push his buttons, and just like a shark to blood, the other mime follows suit. And without even a word spoken between the two, the communication was perfect. The hoss first starts to politely ask to stop, but dragging him closer to the disposal unit, Purple and Browns was ready to flush. The mimes kick it up a notch, one hitting the other with a rubber hammer, while Purple and Prowls quickly tries to get it to the disposal unit. The officer pulls out his stun rod to scare away the mimes, but their pursuits and tactics are still underway. Another security officer joins the fray as civilians begin to take notice and scream at them. "Why are you hitting the mimes?" The other mime falls too close and gets arrested. The officer screams, "Back off!" But it's too late. Flush and then drag, and the officer is sent away into the trap. Spotting the flushed officer tucked away nicely in the trap disposals, the mime and the gray from earlier point, laugh, and reflect. The hoss arrives, and in exchange for the mime, he takes the crate and leaves. The officer, not wanting to damage the station, is morally trapped. Baiting him with the press of the remote signaler, he quickly locks and unlocks the door. He was indeed stuck. The mime, now free, comes to join the show. He offers to break down the window as an engineer steps by to intervene. Seeing that his doors were about to be unbolted, he plans to bolster his trap for one last time. Watching them slowly break out of his cave, he quickly ponders how he'll fix it later. Not before running up and securing with more lockings and unlockings. One, two. Now there's a wall. Nice. Locking even the other side, the mime reinforces his trap for good. Witnessing a disturbance, the mime comes to investigate to see a rabid gray attacking without concern. Facing 2 hits, he slips on the bloody water as the mime quickly flushes and places his toolbox away. The gray is not satisfied and comes out swinging and is looking for blood. He pulls out a knife, yet is slipped. The mime pockets it and begins the chase. Red alert. Mimes on the loose. Yet more crew members come to rescue the mime, while some mistake him for an attacker. The Gray is quite upset at the turn of these events, and says, "Die, loser." Later on, the Mime spots the Gray next to a dead droid healing himself. Another man falls dead next to the Gray as he says, "Asshole." The Mime pens the man and begins shoving the attacker. But it's too late for the rabid Gray, as the blood loss is already kicked in. He is given a smack and put on a chair, not before having mercy and giving him a last pen. Chapter 3, Mime Crimes. The Mime, dissatisfied with the treatment of his other friend earlier, decides to enter Sec for a final act of protest. Yet somehow, some magical way, without even a word being spoken to one another, the other Mime comes through and joins him into Sec. But little did the Mimes know, this would be their final hurrah. The Warden begins threatening them to stand still and comply with being arrested.
The emergency shuttle has been called.
However, the Mime's ferocious spirit was not allowing even a single one of them to give ground. Refusing the arrest, the Hoss had enough. Shots flew as Purple and Prowse ran away and began to throw slippery lube on the ground. He pulled his friend away from being arrested, slipping the Hoss. A stun baton and more bullets came for them, but it was too late, for they slipped on the lube. Purple and Prowse ran to get both the items, did a dance on them fools, and flushed them away. Dodging more gunfire and slipping the Hoss one more time. He begins to dodge punches, and with a ferocious speed, he popped an invisible wall in front of the man with the Disabler SMG, blocking the shot. Slick. Running around even more, the other Mime begins to feel the power of battle and begins to give way and chase. A slip and a grab, the stun baton is his, as Tuck Esser stands brilliantly against the Hoss, unmoving. However, the detective had enough and gunned down Purple and Prowls. Not before getting slipped and allowing a last arrest. Meanwhile, Tuck Esker, in a fight for his life, is trying to avoid the Hoss, who just ran out of his stun baton. Purple and Prowls now arrested. Tuck Esker has just restrained the Hoss and is shut down brutally by another security officer. Under chase, he gives one last slip to run away. Not before fleeing. Oh, he tries to tie up another person, but he just can't help but be robust and slip away. Hearing the slips of 1,000 suns and the bullets of disablers flying past, Purple and Prowls begins to break free. Not before Tuck Esser is brilliantly shot down time and time again, almost dying from the assault. Then, arrested by all three men, Purple and Prowls begins to break loose. Smacking away at the window, Tuck Esser can't help but taunt on, as Diogenes Magnus can't help but bear witness. Quickly popping up an invisible wall, Purple and Prowls blocks the Hoss and begins to make his last escape. He pockets everything and runs. He tries to flush, but the power is off. He's playing with the menu. He hides in the man. He's getting hit. He's almost dead as he drags in and flushes away. Tuck Esser and the prisoner and the warden are in shock. One mime has gotten away. However, he must free his other friend. Barely dodging the sight of the warden, he slips by and tries to look for him, not finding him in security. There he is, stuck in medical, being healed by security. The detective quickly comes as the warden beats down a totally random mime, just for the pure hatred of mimery. Purple and Prowls tries to get away as fast as he can, but fumbles and slips. He manages to compose himself before running away. The warden begins the hunt, but falters. The other mime is very confused as a robot lasers another dude to death. He retreats to a corner and unrestrains his fellow mime. Unrestrained by a fellow passenger, the two mimes are rejoined together again. They meet with all the mimes and have a silent meeting of briefly exchanged greetings. But however, the warden has had enough. Machine gun in hand, he guns down the mime in cold blood. The civilians can't help but witness. However, the universe has a cruel way of repaying itself, as not just anyone waltzed into Sec, but a Terminator, immune to all bullet damage. He beats down the Hoss and the warden, and most of Sec as he goes on an unbridled rampage throughout the station. And there the warden lies, beaten and dead next to the same mime he ruefully killed. Such is the way of the space station. In the end, 2 of 3 mimes lived, and 1 left an impact, a brutal scar into the security officers' minds that will never be truly healed. Genius, I say. Simply genius. Hopefully it doesn't sound like shit. Thanks for watching. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Yep.